Do you ever wish that you could stop time? Well, now you can with a pause button. The idea here is that you're making a game and it keeps going until you press the pause button, and then it stops. And then when you press play, it continues. So let's do it. So you're in your editor, and I'm going to drag out a text object, and I'm going to go to emoji, and I'm going to pick an emoji to be my character that's moving and will be paused. Pick whatever you want, but I think I'm going to pick the bee. All right, press done, and I'm going to add a new rule. So when the play button is tapped, I want the bee to be bigger, so I'm going to go to looks and sounds, and I'm going to drag out a set size block, which changes the size of objects, and I'm going to make this bee like 300%. And then press check down here, and let's press play. Cool, great size. All right, let's go back to edit, and I'm going to make this bee just fly in a circle. So I'm going to go to movement, and I'm going to move forward, and to move left, which is the direction the bee's already facing, I'm going to move a negative number. So pick negative, and I'm going to pick -10, press check, and then I'm going to turn. And to turn clockwise, which is what I want, you put a negative number here as well. So I'm going to turn -10 degrees. Press check. And then if I just press play now, you're not going to see much happen because we only did those two things once. So let's go back to edit and let's have this happen all the time. So go all the way down to control flow and pull out a repeat forever block and put it right above the move forward, and then drag these two blocks inside the loop. So now these two things will occur all the time. So let's see what happens now. Oh, this bee is flying in a circle. Okay, great. So you just learned how to make a bee fly in a circle, but let's say you want to press a button that stops it. So let's go back to edit, and let's get out of here by tapping outside of the rule. And let's go back to our objects menu, and let's drag out a text object, and let's call it pause. And this is our pause button. So press done, and let's add a rule that says when you touch this object, this bee stops. Okay? So tap on the object, add a new rule to your pause object, and pick when character is tapped, which means when pause is tapped. And so the way we're going to have pause work is we're going to use values. So let's go to the values tab, which is yellow, and let's drag out a set value block. And let's add a new value. So tap on plus new value right here, and let's call the value paused. And then press done. And let's tap on it, and now it's in this set value block. And right now we've set it to 0. So let's actually set it to 1. And this is something called binary logic. It's just a tradition where computers will often use the number 1 to mean yes, and the number 0 to mean no. And let's set it to 1. Okay. So what happens if we press play? Absolutely nothing, because we haven't taught the bee that when paused equals 1, it should stop. So let's go back to edit, and let's exit out of here, and let's go back to the bee, and then go to the bee's rule. So this is repeating forever no matter what the value paused equals. 1, 0, doesn't matter. So we need to change that. So let's go down to control flow, and let's drag out a check once if block and put it right inside the repeat forever block. And then let's pick equals. So here, we're going to check if the value paused equals 0. So go to values next to calculator, and then tap on this gray arrow until you find the pause object's values. And let's tap on paused. And then for the thing equal, okay, tap on paused, and then tap on the second bubble to the right of paused, and put 0, and then press check. And then drag these other two blocks inside it. So now what's happening is that we won't get past this gate unless paused equals 0. So let's see what happens. Let's press play. So paused equals 0 in the beginning because all values equal 0 when you create them at first. But then when you press pause, the bee stops. Cool, right? This is great, but how do I get back to it playing? Because that's all we taught it to do, is to stop the project. So let's go back to edit, And let's exit out of here, and let's go back to the paused objects rules. And let's go to when pause is tapped. And here, this is useful if paused equals 0. If that's the case, then when you tap on this object, it equals 1. But what if it's already 1? Then we want it to equal 0 again. So this is called a toggle. So the way to create it is to go to control flow and drag out a check if else block. Put it up here. And for the first part, we're going to say check if paused equals 0. So tap equals, and then go to values and pick paused. And then in the second bubble, pick 0. Press check. And paused equals 0 when the bee is flying around. So when that's the case, drag this in here. If pause equals 0 when you tap this object, pause becomes 1. The else means if this is not true. So here, that would mean this, whatever we put in here will happen if pause equals 1. And so what we want to happen if that's the case is that we move it back to 0. So go to values and drag in a set value block into here and pick paused and set it to 0, which is already the number there. So now let's see what happens. Press play. If you pause, the bee stops. If you press it again, it continues. So let's do one more thing. Let's go back to edit. And when we pause, let's turn that button to say play. So go to looks and sounds and drag a set text block right under your pause, set pause to 1 block. And let's go to this keyboard right here under the numbers and remove this text and write play. Press done. And then let's also drag a set text under the set pause to 0 block. And let's tap the keyboard, let's remove new text, and let's write pause. And you'll see what this all does in a second. So let's press play. Okay, so while the bee's moving, this button says pause. If we tap it, it stops, but now it says play, which means now when you tap it, it will continue. Make sense? Cool. So this is a great way to pause games, and the idea is that everything that's moving in your game should only be moving when you check if pause equals 0. And one last important note, whatever you have inside your check once if paused equals 0 gate, that will finish before you check again if paused equals 1. So if you have like move forward 1,000 and you've only gone 500 pixels into that and then you pause, it's still going to finish doing this before it checks to see if you've paused. So if you really want to be precise, you might want to split this up into tinier steps and maybe move 50 pixels at a time every time checking if it's paused. The more you check if it's paused, the more precise pause will be. If you have like 100 blocks in here, they're all gonna like, you will either have to check each of them for pausing, or you have to just deal with the fact that they're all going to run before you check for pausing again. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're making a more complicated game and you notice that the pause isn't happening instantly, that could be why. Cool, and those are the basics. So I can't wait to see all the awesome projects you make and stop them and then start them again. So show me what you got, and I'll see you next time. Bye.